Platos Cave. That's right. You tuned into the right channel if that's what you're after. In Australia, broadcasting from here, that is for Revolution.radio. That's correct. It's home to ideas that are fresh, uncensored, maybe even thought-provoking. God help us all. Conversations in the chat room are always good, so if you can make it in there, make it. I'm trying to get in there myself at present, and I shouldn't be very long in getting there at
I'll
all.
welcome you when you arrive.
Thank you so much. And anybody is welcome, by the way. Oh, as long as you, behave yourself. I mean, in normal civilized manner and all that. Now the station, and this is important, doesn't actually report into the corporate conglomerate under which we all toil and sweat and die, and thusly requires your support. So if you can donate to the station, any currency is good, including and up to crypto. That would be awesome. Now you can't. That's okay too. I get it. You know why? Because that's where we are today and have been for a while now. Just tell people about the station. If you can't donate, tell people about the station. And I'm in the chat room now. If you wanted to say something, go ahead. Answer. Someone is picking up the phone. Enceladon is there. Omega Logos is there. Narara is there.
Yes, I am.
And who else do we have here? I think that's probably all we have at the moment. It's a very late hour for the States. Actually, no, it's morning. Actually, no. Actually, I don't even know.
It's 7 a.m.
7 a.m. That's fairly early. It's fairly early. Anyway, so happy breakfast times. Today is the 22nd of August, 2024. It's my brother's birthday on Saturday. Happy birthday, Attila. That's right. His name is Attila. Indeed. That's not a joke. It's actually his name. I think it's awesome. So happy birthday to you for Saturday. And see you then. You can catch The Cave on the air, on the line, and onto your smart device to grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. Another good reason to donate is the fact that the archives are entirely free of charge. So go ahead, go on into the archives, enjoy the content that you find there, or hate it. It's okay too. You can hate it. You don't have to enjoy it. Hate to your heart. Hate until your belly is full. Gobble up that good hate. But yeah, so if you can, go in there and have a look. That'd be awesome. Just help yourself. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, which we will do momentarily, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it's the Duck and John.
Thank you, sir. For myself, of course, it's the Daruk people here in what turned out to be quite sunny Pamela Way. Okay. The world is still here. We're all still here. I'll put that in the plus column of my little ledger. We're still here. Tick, tick. Why not? But it's interesting. There's this undercurrent of violence. And I'll explain what I mean in a second. There seems to be this energy. That's the best word. There seems to be this energy that goes around the world, all the world over, that seems to target the defenseless. The children, the women, and our numbers are getting worse. The domestic violence. Any violence against women or children, murder, including murder in Australia, around the world as well. More and more, it seems, children being killed in activities we would not have thought twice about sending our kids to. Not twice. Right. I mean, what? I look. Yes, I grew up in what I want to. I think, looking back at my life, I think I grew up in the golden age for kids. I really did.
Yeah, me too.
We had polio vaccines, we had smallpox vaccines, we had tetanus shots, we had indoor plumbing. How about that? We had TV and radio. Computers, well, not really, rudimentary. We still thought digital watches were a good idea.
Yeah.
At that time. I certainly had them. And I thought it was a brilliant idea. But we also played outside. I know, Dave, look, I think this is the same the world over. Generation X, right? 60s, 70s, and 80s. This is just a rough sketch here. That's about Generation X. Mid 80s to mid 60s, I guess, or early 60s to mid, and sort of mid 80s. Generation X. We grew up with a lot of stuff. We didn't know how lucky we were. We went outside to play. We didn't have to worry about the things that we seem to have to worry about today, like school shootings and such. And there was nuclear war. There was a threat of nuclear war. There was always hanging over us. But I don't know how serious we took it, to be honest with you. I guess it was serious enough. I mean, I lived near the most heavily fortified border in the world at the time, Germany, East and West Germany, the most heavily fortified border in the world, and they were teaching us drills around, crawl around your deck, under your desk, or even your decking. If you've got a decking, crawl under that, because that'll protect you from the nuclear blast. Good luck to you. Mm-hmm. But look, it didn't come to it, and something else happened in the late 80s. We brought glasnost and perestroika, and the fall of the Soviet Empire, if nothing else. And I'll be honest with you, my 70s and 80s. I mean, I was born in the 60s, but I only really remember the 70s, right, and 80s. They were a time of tranquil happiness. We had Saturday afternoon television. That was for the kids. That was pretty much the only television we had for kids. No other programs really. We played outside in summer, all day long, mm-hmm. and we had backyards which weren't enormous, and we had little splash pools. Not nothing fancy. This a splash pool, right? Like
we made our own pool.
Yeah, even better.
Better blocks and concrete, and the plans for it are still at Parramatta Council.
Oh, nice. That's cool. That is cool. And it was a time of I think, in many ways, of innocence. Was it perfect? Of course, it wasn't perfect. No. I would not dream to say it was perfect. Certainly, a lot of people were in poverty, but I think overall there was prevailing wind of optimism that still existed, especially after World War II. World War II came along and really knocked the world for, a turn, and a whole bunch of stuff happened in the 50s and 60s, which was, unprecedented, and there was a lot of optimism in the air, and it was just up, and go, right? And let's just rebuild and eat well, live well, make money. That was kind of the credo, right? I mean, I think the Kennedys were a good exemplification of that in the States, and especially John F. Kennedy. This is optimism, right? This is unbridled optimism that we seem to have, and then things changed, and you look back on this, right? And I'm so glad that I lived when I lived, at least at my childhood day. In the winter we would go sledding. There's this the only thing separating us from a road was some metal postings, mm-hmm. Metal palings, and if you crash into those, that'll hurt. But I hurt less than a car, so I guess that was okay. It was a good life. It was, especially when you're a young child. When you're a teenager, things change and you start to realize things more. Everything changes because I've never met a happy teenager in my life, I think.
Don't drift too far without reading what I wrote into the chat.
Did you write something? Yeah. Sorry, brother. I'm not looking at the chat at all. Okay. I'm just free forming. That's actually Dave. Why don't you share that with the audience?
Well, look, I heard a comedian reminding me of this, and it was in support of Gen X being the ones that parents forgot. It wasn't like that, but their comedy routine was very funny, and they mentioned this thing because, there was this is the comedian. It's not my joke. It's someone else's, and they said at 10 o'clock at night, the parents there was an ad run on television and said, "Do you know where your children are?" It was like almost like we know you've forgotten where they are. Just in Australia it's 6:30 and big cat or big bear or I don't know who it is. It's time for the kids to go to sleep. It's 6:30. Right? That's what they ran. This is country television, right? Yeah. And anyway, so I think NBN or something, I forget who it is. And they used to run this in free-to-air television, this small break that... But you know what? When you're a kid and it's 6:30 at night and it's summer, the sun doesn't set for another 3 hours.
That is the truth.
I remember having blackout curtains like it's, it's England during the war to try and block out the sun. And my bedroom faced west into the setting sun. And to be ordered, that's the word, because it was
Ordered.
Gen X, ordered to go to bed because it's bedtime. And I found that extremely difficult. But the whole comedian's joke was that we were left to our own devices. We played outside. They didn't even want us in the house.
They
not
didn't
at
know
all.
where we were.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, not at all. In fact, you see, in Germany, because of where it is geographically, in the summer, you can still read the newspaper at 11 at night.
Yeah, that's right.
So our streetlights went on very late. So our mothers would call us. But the way it was, both my parents worked. We're living in what was then, I guess, what you'd call a, not a housing commission or project, but sort of like that. It was built for refugees from the east, German refugees that had run away from the east to live in Germany. And that's where my grandparents found their flat, and my mum found a flat as well. So that's where we lived. But it was like not like a compound. There weren't any walls, but it was all interconnected. The houses were on the outside. They're like 6 family houses, like six each, but 6 families per house, so 2 or 3 stories. Plus, the cellars were connected, and some of the attics were connected. So the whole thing was just one gigantic playground. I mean, the whole thing was massive. Yeah, it was huge, and it wasn't sterile because there was a lot of greenery in between, a lot of open spaces. And this was
a common area in between all the houses.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And it was awesome. It was really awesome. And like I said, and I spent my days at my grandparents' place, which wasn't very far. It was like 2-minute walk from our flat, and they would let me run out. So my grandparents would feed me lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever. And then Mum would come and pick me up when she got home from work. But what I had done during the day was a complete mystery to everybody. So, which again, that was pretty cool. It was all right. There was nothing wrong with that. There was no fear. I don't think my parents were afraid. I mean, I was out with my friends, probably, I don't want to say about a 15-minute walk from my house when I was about 5 years old. And I think I told the story before, and we all had this we had to prove our fearlessness by jumping over this wall. Now this wall is now halfway up to my knee, so it's not a challenge, but if you're 5, it was quite a challenge to jump over it. I didn't quite make it. I clipped the top, and I landed badly on my right arm.
Oh no!
And promptly broke it. I broke it in a couple of places, and my father had a bad feeling and came and found me and took me to the hospital.
Oh, I love this story. Yeah.
Yeah, got an X-ray. No, this was summer. This was the beginning of summer. Got an X-ray. Okay, well, I had a choice: stay in hospital for 6 weeks with my arm sort of, in a sling, or get an upper body cast, like the entire upper body, and just go home and do that. Yeah. So I chose to go home, and but it was a hot summer, I tell you, and Mum sort of washed me as best as she could under the.
And you couldn't take refuge in a cool pool or lake or a stream or nothing.
I could dangle my feet into it. That was pretty much the extent of it. But the point is this, right? I was 5 with a group of 4 and 5-year-olds, like nowhere near within eyesight of my parents or even earshot. Okay, and nobody thought any. I mean, nobody. Yeah, that's just how it is. What? You got a problem? It's just astounding that we are now living in such a fearful society where my kids are, you better stay at my knee. Stay at my knee, I tell you. Okay.
So I got another broken arm one for one of my kids, and both parents working. School is closed, so they had this thing called vacation care, and it's a local church group that were doing it, and so we had a lot of trust with them, and it's all good. So I dropped her off in the morning. Shortly after that, the first break, she actually was playing on some of the gym equipment and broke her arm.
Oh, jeez.
But being a trooper, this is Eileen, right? Being a trooper, an absolute trooper, she didn't cry. She just kind of sat quietly in the corner holding the bit that hurt And, you know, they're saying, you know, why don't you play with the other kids? No, I'm good. Didn't say a peep.
Wow.
And they changed shifts, and then the next group came in and said, you know, what's going on with her over there? I don't know, she just doesn't want to play with the kids today, right? So one you know, very nice carer asked her, what's wrong? She goes, oh, I hurt my arm on the play equipment. And she goes, oh, I'll call your dad and see. And as soon as I called, I've just gone, she's broken her arm. And she goes, no, she's not crying or anything. No, she wouldn't cry. She wouldn't. And so anyway, I bet her like $10 that when I picked her up and I took her to the hospital,
Nice.
that it was entirely broken. It was broken across the growth band or whatever it's called.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were worried that it wasn't even going to be in shape. And so the next day, she's turned up there in a cast. And they go, oh, it was broken? Oh, yeah, it was broken. 8 hours she was there, and they did nothing. Oh, man, they were so nice. They bent over backwards.
Wow.
Yeah. In California, there would have been a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah. And you'd be rich now.
I know, right? What an idiot. What an idiot. Hey, I wanted to say something, Mickey. Remember that Trump and Musk on X?
Oh, yes, the interview.
Discussion? Yeah. Well, I couldn't help it. I found this the other day, right? And it is the conversation between the two and their user age and gender breakdown. Because this is, the kind of stats you can get. You can get these stats. So, the gender was 54% male. That leaves 46% female.
Yeah.
And
that sounds right.
That's, they're correct numbers out of 100%. And this is probably the birth gender, because there's no one else listed. And the user ages, under 24, only 7%. 54 and over, 1%. And that was me, clearly listening. The 40, they had hundreds of millions of people listening live. They claim 1 billion, but no one can really, accurately gauge those numbers because people were streaming it on YouTube.
1 billion?
So, because people were streaming it on YouTube. It wasn't just coming straight out of a stream, but it was going to multiple, right?
I think that's optimistic, but fair enough.
They said at least hundreds of millions because that's what left Twitter or X. That's what left there. But then, just like this station, it has repeaters and people, streaming it. So 25 to 34, 70%. 70. The majority of people on the platform listening, 70% listening to it. And then 17% for the 10 years above that. And again, next 10 years was only 4%. So the majority, 25 to 34 male.
Really?
Absolutely insane. It's nearly 50-50 split, right? It's only 4% difference between male and female, but wow, 70%?
No, I know.
That's the exact demographic that is, they vote with their feet. You know what I mean? They're the most...
Makes you wonder what they made of it then, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
It's good to get the audience, but you don't want to look like a muppet, right?
Well, see, you end up with this thing, right? So remember how comfortable right before the internet, Mickey, how comfortable everyone was with media. Well, let's call it the control of the media and what they were saying, and the three-letter agencies with their plants inside the media, making sure everyone was following the narrative, and we knew nothing of it. I knew some stations, I didn't like this station or that one because they were, a little slanted, right? In those days, the advertising was cross-subsidizing the news presentation back then, right?
Oh yeah.
In the 70s and 80s, there wasn't the direct, news having its own sponsorship. So the control was there, and now I think the aging, let's call it media, as we all know it, the newspapers are almost dead. They're just generating stories for everyone else to use now. And I'm wondering, is this part of the big push for censoring and control of the electronic social media news sources? Because most people watch their news in clips now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. People that are tech savvy and live in countries that have access to,
of course,
internet use. You're right. You consume what you want when you want. Interesting. Actually, there's an interesting consequence out of the last 20 years of technological innovation. And cast your mind back to the Model T Ford, right?
Oh.
You can have it any color as long as it's black.
As long as it's black, that's right.
Right? Now it was the ultimate in mass production. I mean, he invented mass production. You can stand on your head, but he did. Absolutely, he did.
And changing the slight differences year on year. Same car.
Yeah, same car, but he could make a gazillion of them very cheaply, etc. With fairly good quality too, right? And for the longest time, I'd say for 100 years, close to 100 years, that was how we operated. We had to find cheaper and cheaper means of production. We had to standardize more and more, even in our industry, Dave, as you recall. Yeah. We wanted to standardize all our solution. Of course, complete nonsense. Can't do that, but nonetheless, people tried. With more or less, success. In fact, it was one of the biggest failures of BlackBerry and Apple when it came to standardization. That's actually what sank BlackBerry and hurt Apple immensely in the battle of the apps, etc. But they're pulling through because they've got a fan base. But the point I'm trying to make is, for the longest time we were looking at mass production and all the same, and standardization, and this is how it is, and factory produced, boring, and we've gone 180 degrees the opposite direction.
Yeah.
At present, 180 degrees. We are now in micro customization. You can go to McDonald's and have any burger, any which way, in any configuration you like. When I grew up, do you know what you get when you get a cheeseburger? You get a cheeseburger.
Those were the days. We won't see the likes of them again.
And no, we won't, especially the brown onions. But if you look at the ceiling of McDonald's, in my youth, and funnily enough, this was continent spanning. This was in Germany as well as it was in Australia, and then later, as I learned, in America. The ceiling would be plastered with pickles, with the little pickle slices that people had catapulted
onto the
ceiling because they couldn't ask for without.
And so then the amount of pickles on the ceiling actually drove the requirement to not have them.
Well,
did you know that?
I did not know that, but it makes perfect sense. You could then option
out. That's right.
Yeah, no, but see, and now I can have a quarter pounder with salad and Big Mac sauce and blah, whatever else I like, and I can mix and match to whatever I like.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I would necessarily go to McDonald's because there are much better burgers around, and McDonald's really was, again, like Ford, was the poster child for mass-produced standardization. And it wasn't bad when it first started. Like, you probably have seen the movie, this was a movie about McDonald's, right? Which was really interesting. Michael Keaton was in it. And but they had to change their business model completely. Because people wanted their way. People wanted their way. People want to consume media the way they want to. They want to eat the food they want to, when they want to. You can order all kinds of food online now, right? You can do anything online now. You can have it your way. All of it. And even if you go into a shop, you will still have it your way. You can have it your way. What do you want? Okay, yeah, sure, we can do that for you. We are living in the I guess this is the peak of customization, like I said, micro and nano customization. of anything, and even your clothes.
Yeah.
But you might not be a bespoke person. Like, you don't go to the tailor and get your suit made, maybe, right? But if you go online, you can, and you can do it cheaply, and you can choose this and that and the other. And it is incredible how customized our society is become, and that's why our buying patterns have changed for the government, for large corporations. Nobody buys in bulk much anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, governments are going by departments. Universities are, they're by departments anyway. The resources sector is by asset or by department. Large corporations, even going down to the business unit. These large ITOs we used to see, $1 billion, $2 billion ITOs, they don't exist anymore.
No, that's right.
Because again, we've come, and in your IT services, and this is not just in what Dave and I do, but you as a consumer, you can pick and choose what you want, which provider you want, the devices, the channels you want to watch, and
That's
when
right.
you want to watch it. Not just the content that you want, but when you want it. You can watch what you want when you want. One of the biggest thrills of my childhood, then I'll get to the BlackBerry thing here. One of the biggest, thrills of my childhood in Germany, every Saturday in summer, every Saturday night, there would be either a movie or a mini-series that would play. This was in the 70s and 80s. They were called Straßenfeger, which meant they would just clear the streets. All of Germany would watch it. I mean, literally. And there was an initiative where you could choose between 3 movies. You call a number, and you vote for your movie, and then whoever gets the most votes. Yeah, it was pretty cool. The whole country would vote, and then whatever movie got the most votes would win, and that's what you would watch that night. And I was lucky enough to, I guess, always had the majority taste, because I always got to watch my movies. But they also had these mini-series, and they were usually based on novels or whatever, and they were high production value as well, and they would run for 3 or 4 Saturdays, or Thursdays, as the case may be during summer. And then they had game shows as well, similar to the game shows we have here, but they had entertainment, actors and actresses. They would go for 2.5 hours, and they were live, they would run overtime. But everybody in Germany, like a very large percentage of people, would sit down at home and watch it. That's what they would do, because it was just, that's what was great. It was just fun. And I can't describe the feeling that we had when we watched it. And what I mean by that is, there is something to a shared experience. Right? And a lot of our kids don't get that much anymore. That's why I like to take my kids to the movies. It costs me an arm and a leg.
Doesn't
And I remember it was like a movie ticket was like $5. I mean, seriously, right? And then it was cheap, Popcorn. Tuesday, cheap Tuesday. And it was half. It was less. And now I got 3 kids and my wife, and we leave a lot of money at the cinema. Trust me. When we go, I mean. But I want my kids to have that group experience, and I always give $5, $10, $20 to my daughters, and my son is a bit young, to give to buskers in the street.
Yeah.
If they're good. If they're not good, then no, you're not getting anything.
Just keep walking. Yeah.
But if they're good, then I want my kids to both experience the collective experience of the cinema, number one, and number two, I also want them to be able to enjoy street performance. Nothing. I want them to step away from the devices, from TV, computer.
You do a good job with that.
Well, look, we do what we can. Nobody's perfect, but the point, I know you do the same. But the point is, a lot of kids don't get that experience anymore, right?
No.
And remember, there was this even in Australia, there were these mini series that would come out back in the late 80s, early 90s, or movies would come out first released from the cinemas. We all would go and watch it. Or Seinfeld. I remember Seinfeld and shows like that.
They were being not streamed in unison in the US, but they were first view shows. And they came at a certain time, at 7:30. And we only had 5 channels.
That's it. And you want to watch it? Well, you better sit down and watch it, right?
That's right.
And it would
even though
bring people together.
even though VCRs were invented, we had one, but we rarely recorded things that were just straight to air. We rarely did. Only special things.
Yeah, I made my brother record it. That's just, I was a terrible older brother. But you're right though, and the truth is, we don't get that collective experience anymore. And I heard recently, and this is what really made me think about all of this. And maybe it's they want to change the way we think and feel about each other, as part of the puppet show. But music festivals, that used to be. Now I never used to go to many, but I went to a few, and they're fun. Raves, music festivals. There was one in Sydney. I can't remember what it was called.
A Day in the Grass.
Maybe Day in the Grass. I want to say Day in the Grass. But so you go there, and then a whole bunch of bands playing in different stages, and it's a whole day, and sometimes it's a weekend or whatever. And those events are dying, Dave.
Yes. Insurance.
They don't get the audience anymore.
No, and insurance costs are really high.
Yeah.
Venue costs are really high. They don't tend to make very much at all, and the government kind of made it difficult for them, having to make them go through even more hoops.
Yes, agreed.
And this collective experience is something that's being wiped out. My daughter has just watched. Sometimes she has some YouTuber friends. She follows, and they all do a live stream, and there might be 20,000 people watching it live, and it'll go for 13 hours. It's gameplay, and they'll have they've raised a lot of money, like $6,000 or something, and it's kind of like, remember those appeals when you'd be watching a TV show that have a whole bunch of phone operators with famous people on them.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so you would ring in and pledge some money, and if we reach this goal, we're going to do this. Yeah. We'll play this TV show or something, right? Yeah. And so it's kind of like an old pay-per-view kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're gone. The collective experience diminishing, I should say, severely. When Oppenheimer and Barbie came out, they packaged them against each other, and they saw independently of each other the highest box office ratings for any two movies that were playing at the same time.
That's right.
In the history of humanity.
That's right.
So everyone saw it, and we got that collective experience for a moment.
Yeah, 100%. And that's nice. And that's why some movies are deliberately kept out of streaming services for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then other movies should go straight to streaming. So that's just terrible.
Made for streaming, yeah.
But Dave made a really good point in our private chat here, and this is around the other side of this technology, and so we spoke about how it has allowed for micro customization, etc., and really individualized kind of experiences for people rather than having a collective experience. And we are herd animals. In fact, what Dave has here is a perfect example of the herd animal mentality.
Oh, you're throwing it to me. So
I'm throwing it, my friend.
Thank you. Caught. So this comes from the wrong side of history on Substack. It's accurate. I've checked it, and this is The Spectator. It says the turmoil in America in the 1960s was directly linked to the spread of television. Think about that. Facebook spread the Arab Spring thing that happened. The Birmingham riots in 2005 were blamed on pirate radio stations in England. And the 2011 London riots were attributed to BlackBerry. So this is the way information is being disseminated to the people. They even did a show on that pirate radio station, which was really interesting. So today, social media has surpassed all of the controls. It surpassed the amount of viewership, because now you're seeing everybody there, and the instant communications that you can flick out to somebody, the emotional directive for a clip that goes viral can be intentionally driven that way. It can be kind of accidental. Someone just does a live stream and you just take from it what you will. But the thing that's not taught to anybody is how do you process what you see? Is that a good point to make?
I think so, and in fact, I think it's extremely pertinent. So, again, Gen X, lucky generation, we got everything in baby steps. All technologies, except for radio, came in baby steps to us. Right? And information was manageable. The intake of information was manageable. Dave and I actually had to read books to learn.
Mm-hmm. Libraries, remember index cards.
Yeah. I collected, and I still do collect comic books. I love comic books. I read a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't have to read for school, and TV was limited because there just wasn't much programming. We had I think 3 channels in Germany at the time.
I used to write for an underground music magazine.
Nice. That's nice. That's great, dude.
I've still got
people.
them, yeah. Mm-hmm.
People did stuff. People
right.
actually did stuff. I made radio plays with my friends, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Just for fun, and some of the
how is
activities.
H.G. Wells?
That's exactly. No, but we took inspiration from stuff like that, right?
You told me I was 200 the other week. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Very funny.
And it was even a school activity. You know, your school would sponsor it and let you have their recording studio. Our school had one, which was nothing fancy, mind you. Okay, so.
All right, had a tape recorder and a microphone. That's
no, it was okay. I mean, it was soundproof. Anyway, the point is,
good.
There were activities that we undertook, and we could digest the information we're getting. Now, right, especially information that's maybe not age appropriate, can come to you completely unfiltered. And to Dave's point, how do you process all of that information? Well, the answer is you can't. Full stop. You cannot process all the information coming at you. It's not possible.
Are we teaching people how to process?
No, we don't.
No,
we give them some. You know, like I look at my kids in school. They're learning how to search things on the internet, etc., which is good. But they're just given, tour guide instructions. And the assumption is that there will be, some kind of parental oversight to make sure that they, don't go to the wrong sites or aren't exposed to the wrong content, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, you're left in the wilderness by yourself, pretty much. And nobody that I know, or maybe I could be wrong, right? But I don't think our kids are being taught to fact check, right? Which I think is important. I mean, you can't just take information from the internet and say, "Oh, that's the truth." Well, first of all, we don't know if it is the truth, right? That's number one. And secondly, you need to be careful as to what kind of message someone is trying to sell you, right?
Yeah, that's
or
right.
Make you believe. So I think the answer to your very good question is no. No, we our children, and I mean you and I, like, we're spoon fed, so we can pretty much do what we need to do in the world and function, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, our kids no. And you know what? The increased levels of autism, in my opinion, because they're increasing. I don't care what you say.
Are.
I think there are a number of factors. They're environmental, they're nutritionally related, our diet. I also think it's information input. Because kids with autism, in my understanding, have no filters. So they get all of it.
Mm-hmm.
They can't block anything out. It comes to them as is. And it must be quite a frightening experience for kids, as well. No wonder they shut off. But all of these things added up, they're leaving our kids in a highly vulnerable state. Yeah, and I mean, God forbid, but you hear about the suicides of 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and I'm thinking, what? What? And bullying, and body image of 8, 9, 10-year-olds. What? A 10-year-old shouldn't have a body image. What?
That's exactly right. They shouldn't.
It's this insane pervade. I mean, look, I see with my kids and their schoolmates. Some are in year 4 and year 5, makeup, and they're wearing these. This is a white fox, the brand.
Sure.
It's this brand apparently. Like no, seriously. I think it's called White Fox. It's on all the buses. You can't miss it. and it's really directed at 20 or 30-year-olds, but kids in primary school want that kind of stuff. And no, there's no content filter for anyone. There's no one teaching anyone. In fact, what is completely missing is no one is no, sorry, that's not entirely true. Very few people are policing the non-violent or non-pornographic content. So if it's non-violent and non-pornographic, you can pretty much do whatever you want, right?
Unless you live in England.
Unless you live in England. That's the truth. But
they're actually talking about extradition now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, honestly, it had to happen at some point. It had to.
Well, it
I'm
was bound to happen.
Yeah. Not surprised. Not even a little bit. Not even to make this show more interesting.
So I popped into both the chat and our chat an image that I got, which is from this was about the Autism Rise.
Oh yeah,
and
oh yeah.
There's two. The one that's from 1970 through to today is maybe a bit too manufactured curve, whereas the one that was from 2000 on is suggesting that it's 1 in 36 children, as opposed to 1 in 150 children back in 2000.
Yeah. Now think about that for a second. Now, even if the second curve, which is a lot more dramatic, even if that's not entirely accurate, even if it's only half accurate, we're still talking about 150-fold increase.
Yeah, a 1 in 10,000 in 1970 to 1 in 36 or thereabouts.
I mean, okay, we didn't diagnose it, and there might have been other conditions, and it is a spectrum, I get all that, but there's no way
appreciable
that we would have missed that many kids.
That's correct.
No way. No. Especially if they're non-verbal. There's no way.
That's right.
It's just that it's completely impossible. And yet no, that's sure. No, whatever this is, and I'm not saying what it is, I'm just saying whatever it is.
We don't know what it is.
Don't know what it is. It's a modern phenomenon. And I think very strongly that we brought it about due to a number of intersecting vectors, like I mentioned, food and education,
our environment with all these forever chemicals.
Yeah. Medication, but also
medications. Yeah. That's right, and the insecticides and things. Just think about all the forever chemicals that are now prevalent in drinking water, even rainwater. So I agree. There's even a genetic possibility, and radiation, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
There's still possibilities that it's all of them in a mix.
Look, can't argue with that.
The larger the sheet, maybe the more frayed edge, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing is, we haven't really found, no one has identified, number one, a cause, and number two, a cure.
Yeah.
That still eludes us, right? And that should really worry us, because that condition, I mean, if this was fatal, of course, everybody would be up in arms, right? It's not, which is great, but severely autistic children need a lot of help. A lot of help.
Well, there's a very high cost to that help.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I know in Australia we've got the NDIS, which was meant to provide money to the families. Now, today, they just announced they're going to cut $14 billion out of that budget over the next 5 years.
We're going to pay for the submarines, Dave.
Oh, yes, we do. The ones we're entirely never going to get, because the time frame for needing them will have come and gone.
You're not communist, Dave, are you?
I clearly I must be. Have I ever been? Actually, it's looking rather attractive. No, not at all.
I know, right? I know it is.
Just bring
That's
the
funny.
WEF 2030 plan forward. Come on, hurry up. I keep poking the Illuminati with a stick, going, come on. What are you doing?
What you doing? Come on, I'm ready over here. Huh? Give me my universal income already.
Yeah, quick. What are you doing?
Oy vey. But no, that's look, that's
But this
it is funny.
Meki, I'm not in a world of hurt. I'm not in a depression spiral. I'm never going to commit suicide.
Yes.
I'm optimistic. I see what's happening, and I'm okay with change, because in IT that's all we do, is we create change, because you can't have a steady state in IT, because it means you're not innovating.
Correct.
Yeah, sure, I'd like one of those wood grain Cisco models, please.
I like the one with the drum
paneling. That's it's got the Morse code thing on
signals?
top of it.
What?
Yeah, the smoke signals. That's right.
Come on, what you
Yeah.
doing?
So, yeah, completely. But you know what? I do embrace change. It doesn't always work out for the best, but you can always make another decision.
Well, yeah.
And that's what if you're going to decide, just do it, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Agree.
Make the choice. Make the thing happen. Just hurry it up.
Wow. You finished yet?
I'm gonna keep poking it and see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, more power to you.
And that's why I've got to laugh about it, because it's so terrible.
But ultimately, I think we will all end up. If nothing drastically changes, and all these nexus points that could have led to a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've got about 10 minutes. All these nexus points in recent history. Okay, let's start with 1989 and the end of the Soviet Empire, the fall of the Berlin Wall, etc., etc. Imagine if we had shaped the world in the right way at that point. Imagine what we could have achieved now. No, we didn't do that. We're happy Russia is dead, and we let the gangsters take over, and everything went to pot, which eventually led to the rise of Putin, and we are where we are. Mm-hmm. Okay. There were other inflection points that came along, right? After, before really 9/11, to be honest, where we just swept up in this hyper capitalism, in this enormous greed, and for some reason, the American people specifically were sold down the river, pretty much. And then 9/11 came, and nobody that actually, in my opinion, was responsible ever saw a day in court, not a one. 2008, the great financial crisis. Not a single. Well, I lied to you. One banker went to jail. This guy from Singapore who didn't know nothing about nothing. But
he just woke up and was arrested. And there you go. You're the guy.
I just did what everybody else did. Shut up, you. And nothing happened. We did not change the system. We had numerous chances, Dave, to change the system. We destroyed Afghanistan and Iraq, knowing full well what would happen if we withdrew. And I'm talking about the West now. If we pull out, ISIS, that was us. We created the fertile ground upon which ISIS grew. We did, in many ways.
What was it called before the Taliban? It was someone else, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was the Mujahideen before the Taliban.
And they were the ones that America took over and trained to protect the oil pipeline.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then gave them weapons and went back, and they went, weapons! Oh,
yeah.
How good is this?
Anymore.
We're going to rebrand ourselves.
Yeah, and now they can fight you. They fought the Russians and all. But you see, this is the problem, right? And we didn't do anything with those opportunities. In my opinion, they were opportunities to do the right thing. That didn't happen. The trillions of dollars, it is trillions, by the way. We've done the research, everybody. We've done the research. And when I say we've done research, we've looked at the sources that investigated it. We compared the sources, and trillions of dollars went from Main Street tax dollar money to Wall Street. Trillions. Trillions.
Oh, but that's time for bonuses.
Oh,
look at all the money we just got. Woohoo!
Yeah, and the big banks were allowed to get bigger by buying up, pretty much the leftovers of the failed banks.
Yeah, that's right.
So, no, it didn't get better. It got much, much worse. And and we are spiraling down again. I mean, we've got a cost of living crisis in the world. We've got an inflation crisis. We've got a volume of money crisis, what we have, because people are printing money. Okay, and people are saying, oh, well, what's the problem? You know, why do we have inflation? We have inflation because no one is stepping in to control what needs to be controlled. Interest rates are not it. The governments now, and I'm not talking about the Australian government, globally, governments have to step in, fix prices, stop profiteering, okay, and maybe even, God forbid, communism, here I come, start to turn certain companies into public property.
I actually agree with that. It makes me sound like a communist. My dad would be proud that he was right. But the thing that Australia doesn't have that the US does, and that is a price ceiling that could be placed on fuel. Yes. We don't have it.
That's correct.
And it's a free-for-all. And we're, let's just say, a lot more expensive than the US for fuel. Good grief, it's costly. They're better out. You know what? The news was so filled with prophecy this week that they said you better fill up before the weekend because it's going to go over $2 again. Well, it has. For my fuel, it's never gone below $2. But what do I say? So how does the media know that fuel is going to go up, despite the Brent crude oil price still falling? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. It boggles the mind, though, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, they know that people are greedy profiteers. I'm sorry, they just are. And that's why they know that the fuel prices will go up. You can stand on your head. You might not like it, but that's what's going to happen. Okay?
It's only $76 a barrel.
But it could be. You know what really kills me is the petrodollar is done. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
That contract finished.
Yeah.
Or the agreement. Just a month ago, we spoke about this on the show,
and
I haven't seen any consequences of that. Nothing. Like I mean, literally nothing. And I'm wondering, well, why? What? How can this not have an effect on anything, really? To be honest with you, there's no effect on anything. So, what do you make of that? Well, to be honest, I'm at a loss. I have no idea what to make of it, unless people just ignoring the fact that it's come to an end. That's true. But you know what? We're not going to talk about that. It's okay. It's okay. Shh.
Yeah.
Silence, you.
You be quiet. Quiet, you.
Quiet, you. That's right. It's nuts. It's completely nuts. But where do we go from here? Because who do we turn to get justice or a fair hearing or anything like that? Now, seriously, where do we go? Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They're phrases I haven't heard for a very long time.
They don't exist. It's like Eskimos and dwarves and elves.
The fairies down the end of the garden. Yeah, that's right.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Look, I know we're coming. Oh, we got a few more minutes.
We got 2 minutes left. Yeah.
Perfect. Look, the point of today's show was probably more a, hey guys, wake up and smell the coffee. Don't take it all at face value, please, because there's an agenda here. It's playing out. In fact, there are many agendas. Okay, there are a number of agendas, and there's one overriding agenda. And the overriding agenda, it has to be clear to anyone by now, is to, Agenda 21. Okay, Agenda 21. That's the overarching agenda for everything. The complete consolidation for the next 2,000 years of the power structures that exist today, at least. Okay, that sounds terrifying. Well, it should. It should
it's
sound
a long
terrifying.
time in the treadmill, Mickey, I'll be honest with you.
It is. But the thing is this, right? If things are consolidated into the shape that you and I think it might be,
Mm-hmm.
Right? What would ever cause a change? And I mean this. I mean, what would ever cause it to change? There'd be no change. Ever.
No, not again. No.
Oh. And once you realize this, you should start thinking about, well, maybe I don't like that. Maybe I don't like it. Maybe I should live my life differently. Maybe, right? If you can, if you can live it differently, then live it differently. Because it is terrifying. And hey, this is the music. Thank you so much. This has been Plato's Cave. Thank you for spending your morning with us, evening, night, whatever it might be. Don't go anywhere. Something is going to come up. But most of all, be safe.